And this is HCPX, Cali X Boxing 2.0 here with D-Style Boxing. XHCPX. You know how we do here. Happy Wednesday, hump day to everybody. Happy hump day. JC's already in the building. Appreciate you for swinging through. And if you're watching this in the archive, as most of you will be, make sure you're leaving your comments below. And this is one of those fight weeks. It's one of those sort of the opposite of what we had last week, to where we had some 50-50 fights. This is more of a showcase fight weekend, right? Get Regis Prograis back on track. Keep Tim Tszyu busy. I really don't see either one of these guys having any issues this weekend. Zarilla's a guy, has a loss, high KO percentage, but this is a guy Prograis should deal with easily. Ocampo, another guy who is a measuring stick opponent, and Tim Tszyu trying to stay busy. I'm more concerned with how do these guys fit in their current divisions, particularly 140. Teofimo wins. First of all, let me ask you this. Who do you have number one at 140? Do you lean on the equity that Regis Prograis has built up throughout his career? He's got a longer span at 140. Good wins.
He does, but
close loss to Josh Taylor when Josh Taylor was a bit younger on his turf. Or do you give it to the lineal champion? Great performance against the guy. Who do you lean towards?
I got to go by default. Give it to the guy that beat the lineal champion. I mean, that's the way. The man that beat the man is the man. Right? I mean, that's the way I see it, quite frankly. And then now I get it, but here's the thing, like the thing with Regis, and I think this has been one of the biggest criticisms he's received recently was, look, the Zepeda win was a great win, but like nobody really saw it because it was on some obscure pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been on the Zone, should have been on like a bigger platform, in my opinion. And before that, he was not that active, Alex. I mean, after the Josh Taylor fight, he's only fought that was October of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
He's only fought 4 times since then. This is going to be his 5th fight since then.
Yeah.
So he's averaging about 1 fight a year at this point. So like I think the activity needs to happen, and Teofimo, I mean. The Martin
3
fight.
Fights in 10 months. 3 fights in 10 months.
Yeah, like he's been active, and then he comes back and he beats Taylor. So it is what I think that trumps as a Zepeda win, in my opinion. Right?
Good so with Prograis, you had one fight in 2020, one fight 2021, which around that time everybody was inactive, right? In fairness. And he did have two fights in 2022. So I think overall he's been keeping pace with his peers around boxing. And we'd all argue that both of us would argue that that's still not enough for these fighters to be fighting, but he's arguing with he's keeping pace with his peers.
Like I'm not saying you're wrong, Calix, but if you look closely, he fought October 2019.
Uh-huh.
And then he didn't fight again for another year.
Yeah, you're right.
2020. Like that's over just a little over a year of inactivity. And that was in Halloween that he fought.
But but once again, that was the time when nobody was fighting.
No, we can't say nobody. Teofimo was one of the ones fighting.
True.
Right? Like he fought in front of an empty crowd with Lomachenko. We're going to give them credit for doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
But even then, and then he fought 4 months later against Ivan Redkach. In that fight, if you remember, it only went like half the fight. I mean, Redkach was taken out on some stretch or whatever, if you remember.
Then he went another 11 months.
Yeah, and then he goes that long, like almost 11 months. And then he goes like another 9 months after that or something. So then he since the Zepeda fight, that was November of last year. We're halfway through this year. So I mean, we're well past COVID at this point. Now he's made the decision now to sign with Matchroom. Matchroom is going to give him a platform, and moving forward, I think we're going to be good. This fight was not the first choice. It wasn't even the second choice for them, right?
Yep.
So they wanted Barboza as a replacement. They had Paro. I thought the Paro fight was a good fight, quite frankly. I thought the Paro fight was up there. I really do. But hey, we are where we are. We're going to move forward now. I think Prograis wants to be active. He wants to fight. And I think it's a 3-fight a deal with Matchroom at this point, right? So we're going to see where it goes. But I have my reasons for liking the Matchroom deal personally. I think it was a good choice for him because with Matchroom and with Eddie Hearn, he is able to look at the scene and offer fights to fighters in other promotional companies. Whereas if he signed with a promotional company, you're not guaranteed anything. Look at Barboza. Barboza signed with Top Rank, and they haven't given him any of the fights.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you're not guaranteed anything, you sign with a certain promoter, right? I just like what they're doing right now with Matchroom. They're going to put them in your ordinance, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to it.
So the scene at 140, it runs through Teofimo and it runs through Ryan Garcia right now. Those are the two names, right? Teofimo is the guy with the clout and he's got a name. Ryan Garcia at 140 now, and he's the guy that everybody's going to want to go after and target because he's the big name and he's the most vulnerable, right? He's the greenest at that division. He's just entering the division.
That is good.
And I think what we have setting up here is a fractured division. You got Ryan over here. You got Raleigh with the belt over here, which is still insane to me, but he's got a belt. And what that sets up is a similar situation to what we had at 135, where Tank was over here, and they said, no, Top Rank stay over there. So you had Top Rank over here fighting the fights for meaningful fights, and you had Tank over there in that minor league circus act over there. Similar thing here. Raleigh Romero, Ryan Garcia over here. I think this is what we have setting up. Broner possibly entering that, and then you got the killers over here. You got the real belt holders, Teofimo, Regis, Matias, and the other guys. I think we have a fractured division here setting up. But those are the two names that everything is going to run off of. Hopefully, Teofimo comes out of retirement sooner than later and things set up on this side. And then we're just going to have to watch this Raleigh thing play out, unfortunately. He's going to be a belt holder for one fight. Whoever he fights is going to lose to. And I'm assuming it's going to be Ryan Garcia. Do you see this same fracture in this division? Because that's what I see. And over here, it runs through Teofimo. Over here, it runs through Ryan Garcia, who I think will pluck that belt off against Raleigh Romero pretty easy.
I mean, I'm actually excited for the division, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of good fights that could be made. There's a lot of good fighters, and as we know, we have a great fighter in the division. So I don't know if Tater's going to stick around or not, but let's assume he's moving to 147. You have Prograis and Teo are the 1 and 2, and then it's everybody else, right? In terms of, I'm talking about talent, and the pecking order of things, right? Ryan is the big name of the division. I think we'll agree to that. And plus, he's not the most difficult at the same time. So there is guys that are going to want to fight him. Linares right now is campaigning to try to fight the guy. You know what I mean?
And that's sad to watch, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys out there pushing for the fight, but I don't know. What worries me is this. If Teofimo came off a loss to Cambozas, and he had to come back and fight 2 contenders before he fought for a title again, who the hell is Ryan to fight for another belt after coming off an embarrassing knockout loss like that?
He's Ryan.
I mean, yeah, I get it.
But it fits with the Tank Davis theorem too, D-style, in that what did Mario Barrios do to get a shot at Keith Thurman on a pay-per-view? What did Raleigh do to get a shot at a title at 140? What did they do? They lost the 10.
But it speaks to the frustration. Like, here's what's happening when you start, like I don't think fans understand the cause and effect here, right? If we reward fighters like Tank, like Ryan, for fighting nobodies, and they make all this money. What happens is they become targets, right? So everyone wants that payday, right? So they start targeting those guys. And then the ones that are doing all the heavy lifting, all the hard work, right? They start looking around and they're like, why am I doing, like, it's going to have a negative effect. They're going to ask themselves, why am I fighting all these, like, remember, like, and I hate going back to an interview we did. It sounds like a cheap plug, but fuck it. Let's go back to the Roberto Diaz interview. Well, what did he say? Yo, like, so you want me to fight this dude? But like, you're going to put me in World War III, was his wording. But this guy's over here fighting a bunch of bums. Like, it's going to have a negative effect in a way that if fighters see, oh, look, Raleigh just got a belt, and then Ryan's going to fight him. They were both coming off losses. I don't need to go the difficult path. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a lot of shit on social media, use names for clout, right? And just bring up my name that way, right? That's what they're going to do. They're not going to go the hard path. And what happens is the guys going the hard path start saying to themselves, why am I doing this? Why am I taking these challenges? Why am I taking these hard fights? And I'm getting paid peanuts compared to these other guys. Like I mean, because that's what's happening right now. And you see it at all levels, Calix. Like Ramirez was saying, he was demanding $1 million to fight Regis Prograis. Like, who the fuck are you to demand $1 million, bro? Like, that's what Teofimo got paid to fight Josh Taylor. I just think about that.
Yeah, it's
so when you say broken, you know what's broken? What's fractured? That is the pecking order in boxing isn't being followed. We're not putting the best against the best, and then rewarding the risk takers. That's not a system that we have in place in boxing right now. It's not.
Well, the fracture too is big names seem to paralyze divisions now. Either you're getting the big fight or you're playing it safe, right? We've noticed this around 168 for years now, right? Is whatever division Canelo enters into, it paralyzes the division. I think Zone 6 brought it up last night on your channel is, you know, guys like Charlo just get paralyzed because if they're not getting the Canelo fight, they don't want to take the chance of losing. And it's one of the interesting things about how the Canelo situation is playing out currently, if I'm reading this right, is we have a situation setting up in which both Canelo and Benavidez could possibly lose before they fight each other. And the reason I say that is if Benavidez is going to go this route to where he fights Morrell Jr., that's not a gimme. I'm just telling you, it's not a gimme. It wouldn't shock me at all to see Morrell Jr. pull off that win. But also, if Canelo is going to fight Badu Jack at cruiserweight, we have weight classes for a reason. I don't think people are understanding this properly. If he jumps 2 weight classes to fight Badu Jack, I don't care if the catch weight's at 185 with the rehydration clause, any of that stuff. That's a losable fight. That's actually a fight that I would pick Badu Jack. And it's actually a fight that the 2 toughest fights for Canelo are Bivol and Badu Jack. The 2 more entertaining fights are Benavidez and Charlo. What do we know about Canelo? He goes after the legacy. And more on that in a minute, because I have some things to say about that and why I think he's eyed the cruiserweight division. But I want to stay on topic here is it fractures the division when a big name comes in there, because a lot of these guys are viewing this as Ryan Garcia is food. He's easy food. That's how they're viewing it. I'm not saying that's the truth. That's just how they're viewing it. They see him as food coming into the division. He's the big name. They see Raleigh Romero the same way, and they see this playing out there, and they say
it's a much bigger reward than
I want to be. Yeah, but they're saying I want to be on that side. We talk about the fractured division. I want to be on the side with Ryan, Raleigh, and Adrian because that's easy over there, and those are names, and I can make more money that way. And then I don't want to be on this side with Prograis, Matias, you know, the killers. I don't want to be on that side. I don't want to be on the side with Prograis, Ramirez, possibly Teofimo Lopez because he's a name, but he's still a tough fight. So I'd rather be on the easier side with more money. That's the fracture. And it paralyzed the division because a lot of guys are saying, I can't be over here. I don't want to be over here. I'm just going to be in the middle and play it safe. And that's the frustrating part as a fan because it paralyzes fights. We don't get the fights we want. And like I said, I understand the frustration of certain fighters saying, hey, I'm fighting the tough fights over here. Why can't I be that dude? Why can't I get the payday? It's just a whacked out market. And that's what we have at 140.
Yeah, but that fractures the whole sport. It just does because it's rewarding. Like at least in Canelo's case, he is the big money draw, but Canelo's also the one with the better resume. So you would think, okay, well, what I need to do is fight the best and go for legacy because that's where the payday is. That's where the money's at, right? However, when guys like Ryan Garcia are being rewarded with a title shot against Raleigh after coming off a knockout loss, right? I mean, of course, that's going to throw the whole sport off.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's going to paralyze the division because come on, guys, use your common sense, guys. What would you rather fight, Prograis or Ryan Garcia?
Yeah.
Guess which is going to pay you more, and guess which is harder. Like it's not that hard to figure out, So they're going to go for the easy option. Now, I'm not saying Ryan's easy. What I'm saying is it's a very little risk for the reward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Yeah. So one thing I would respectfully disagree with is this comment right here. Shout out to Shoe Shine, great channel. So it's no disrespect, but to me, if a guy turns down a title shot and then he turns down another title shot, which Ramirez has now done, and we can talk about the specifics and put it into perspective, all that stuff. But what he's done now
is $1 million to fight Prograis, bro. That's ridiculous.
He turned down a title shot with the guy he already beat, a vacant title shot, and then he did it. And when he did it, he said, "Yeah, but we'll circle back. When Prograis Hcpx gets that belt, we'll circle right back to it. We'll fight that fight. I'm on my honeymoon right now." Fair enough. But when you do that, I think you go to the back of the line. You've now turned down 2 title shots.
Here's the other thing, and I think a lot of Ramirez fans don't acknowledge this, okay? Ramirez has fought less than Prograis since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Prograis has fought more times. Prograis has been more active than Ramirez. Prograis has better wins. Prograis beat Cepeda, a guy who many feel beat Ramirez. Like Cepeda was a better opponent than Cormier Pedraza, right? And he gave Taylor a much better fight because frankly, Ramirez got his ass kicked against Josh Taylor, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where we are at. And a lot of people didn't feel he wanted a Victor Postal fight. I personally scored it for Ramirez, but it was close, right? But yeah, I think like this idea that he made a mistake and he should have done this. Here's the thing, guys. We need to be careful about getting into the business of telling guys where they should sign and not sign and this and that, because the scenery in boxing changes a lot. And what people keep leaving out is that Top Rank wanted a long-term deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a 3-fight deal with Matchroom. And the first fight was going to be Paro, right? And it wasn't supposed to be, this current opponent, Zorrilla, okay? Zorrilla, whatever his name is. I think it's Zorrilla in Spanish, but nonetheless, we are where we are. I do think Prograis is going to have a big fight later in this year. I honestly feel that way. You know why? Matchroom just re-signed with the Zone, and they're going to make offers, right? They're going to be in a position to offer things to fighters, right? They may have the $1 million that Ramirez is asking for. You never know, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to have money to offer. Like once they get past this fight, and they can offer it to a lot of guys, and they have a platform now. There's something to think about.
Yeah. And by the way, to answer my own initial question, I also have Teofimo number 1. at 140, even in retirement, right? So, and that's the thing. Like, can you rank a retired fighter? But I think all things
You're not
even.
retired until you vacate your belt. You say,
And
no,
that's
I'm
the thing.
retired.
That's a serious question I have. And once again, that reminds me, I want to ask Dougie that today on Twitter is, when Tyson Fury did this, pulled this move, Ring Magazine made a call and said, "Hey, are you really retired?" And you're gonna have to vacate your belt if you're really. And he vacated it. He vacated the Ring Magazine lineal belt. They gave him time. The WBC gave him time to reconsider, a grace period. I just think I'm of the opinion that if you retire, you're using your retirement for leverage to get more money.
It's saying you're retired.
You shouldn't be able to use the retirement
But
plus a belt.
Calix, even Ring called in to get clarification.
True.
Just saying I'm retiring is not really retiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could call my boss right now and say, "Hey, man, I'm going to quit." Right? And they're going to present me with paperwork. I haven't really quit until I actually quit. Until I either don't really show up to the job, right? Or turn in my badge, whatever it is I do, right? Like, I'm not really done till I'm done. Just saying it, if I tell my coworkers at lunch, man, I'm going to fucking quit. Tired of this shit, right? It doesn't really mean I've quit, right? And if my boss calls, hey, are you really going to quit? No, I was just mad at, like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying.
No, and look, all things considered, I have him number one. I got Prograis number two. I understand the argument for Prograis number one. I get it. I understand the argument. He was number two before, and then Teo's just entering the division. I get all that, but I think that win on Saturday, becoming lineal, that definitively, eye test on top of it. The eye test now tells us he can compete with anybody in the division. We weren't so sure about that before. I think he's number one. I got him number one right now as well. 154, another interesting division. Before I get to because I have some thoughts I want to share on the whole Canelo situation. But before we get there.
And by the way, his name is Prograis. Regis Prograis, according to Errol Spence.
Errol butchers a lot of words.
Do you remember that? Remember when he was like, "Come on, he beat Dongo, but Dongo got knocked out by Regis Prograis."
Tim Tszyu, Ocampo. We both expect him to cruise in this fight, right? I actually think he's going to get a stoppage in this fight. No. Do you think the Mel fight is going to happen? What's the landscape at 154 going to look like in 2024?
Here's what people need to understand, Cal. I don't think people understand this, right? Tim Tszyu, Jermall Charlo is done. Like it's a done fight. Meaning all the hard parts of negotiation have all been done. It was one of the easiest fights to make, right? There was only one thing that held it up a little bit. Like the Jermall side wanted a rematch clause. The Tszyu side said, "We're the mandatory. We're not giving you shit." Right? It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
People need to understand this. Like the locations. I don't even like it when people start bringing up the fact that it should be in Australia. They already agreed to fight in the U.S. Don't put a fucking. Tim Tszyu wants to fight in the U.S. I don't want to hear that because you're just putting obstacles in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a matter of timing for PBC at this point. I think they want a fight later in the fall, and this is that fight. You know what I mean? And guess what? The perfect time to announce that pay-per-view or promote it will be during the Crawford Spence promotion. Quite frankly, I think Tim Tszyu and Jermall should be at that fight to give commentary and to promote their fight, quite frankly. I think that'll be smart of them. They probably will. I believe it's going to happen because everything's already agreed to. They're just, I guess, waiting on the hand of Charlo to get better. But everything's agreed to. Everything. It's set in stone. It's under contract.
Mm-hmm.
They're just waiting on this dude to get better. That's all.
So let's project out to, what are we, June 2023? Let's project out to June 2024, 154-pound division. Here's how I see it playing out. I think Tim Tszyu versus Jermell Charlo happens later this year.
Yep.
I think Tim Tszyu upsets Jermell Charlo. I think that will be seen as a slight upset because I think Jermell Charlo come off at about 2-1 favorite, something like that. And we get a rematch. And that makes it a little more difficult because we know Jermell Charlo is great in rematches up to this point. So I think we're going to have a 2-fight situation here regardless. I think we'll have a 2-fight situation, particularly if Tim Tszyu upsets him. And we'll also have this Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford situation playing out at 147, in which they fight twice at 147. And what happens? They both move up. And when that happens, suddenly you have a division in which Errol and Bud are there and they've already fought each other. So they're not going to fight each other again, but they're there. So you'll have 2 more big name dancing opponents or dance partners there at 154 for Tim Tszyu and Jermell Charlo. So you'll have a division in which you have Tim Tszyu, Jermell Charlo. One of them will be undisputed since they've kept the belts together. And then you'll have Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, Sebastian Fundora, even coming off of a loss, is there. You got names there, D-Style. You got a fun division, handful of fighters, fun fighters, named fighters there, and a lot of fun fights.
I just think there's a lot to
Tim Tszyu is in a good spot here. He's in
well,
a good spot
let me jump in before there's too much to unpack. So let me go back a little bit. 2024. Let me forecast it for you. I do agree with you that Tim Tszyu is going to upset Jermell. We'll see, of course. That does not mean I'm counting out Jermell. Jermell could win that fight, right? So it's a good fight. We cannot rule out the possibility, even though there's no rematch clause, there might be a rematch, right? Depending on how close it is. What I think will happen with what could happen with Spence and Crawford, because you said they're not going to fight each other at their time. How do you know? What do they win one apiece? And if they win one apiece, I could see one of them getting a shot at either Tim Tszyu or Jermell, whoever the champion is. And if they win that fight, they could do the trilogy fight for the undisputed at 154. Like, there's a lot of possibilities here. I don't want to dive too deep because none of us know the future, and unexpected things outside of the ring could happen that we don't see happening, right? So it's kind of hard to forecast that far ahead, right? But
I just love but listen, I love a possible scenario in which Tim Tszyu is undisputed at 154. Bud Crawford, undisputed at 147, decides he wants to move up. And we have Tim Tszyu versus Bud Crawford at 154. And Bud Crawford has a possibility of becoming undisputed in 3 different weight classes.
Yeah, yes, that's 100% true. That's a possibility. And I think
it's likely.
And I think that's a big fight.
It's
but
likely.
even if it could be Jermell too. It could be Jermell. It could be Tim Tszyu, right? Either way, that possibility is there for Crawford. But it could also be there if Spence was up and gets the belt and he could go for it against Spence. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here. But again, the fight results alone are already kind of tough to look at. Then there's outside of the ring stuff. There's promotional stuff. There's injuries that could happen. It's just too much to kind of look at. But I agree with you that would be a great scenario.
Yeah. It would. And there are a lot of scenarios that can play out. That's why I love it. One thing that Errol Spence said today at the presser, before we get into bigger issues, is look at all these belts. Look at the belts. And he mentioned Canelo. Canelo's getting paid $50 million per fight. We pay 3% for the belts, et cetera, et cetera. Where is this money going? I don't know if you caught that clip. He's telling the sanctioning bodies, he's holding up his belts on the stage. Where is the money going that we pay in sanctioning fees, particularly for Canelo Alvarez, guys making that much money with all the belts? Where is the money going? Where is it going? And it goes back to what I was saying yesterday about Undisputed. it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Why? Because the fighters are paying so much in sanctioning fees. I think in certain cases, the sanctioning bodies feel like the belts are better in a vacuum. When they become vacant, they can maybe hand it to another guy that they have in mind.
I know
So
where the money's going.
they have inconsistencies depending on who is the guy with the belt. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
So watch me.
Uh-huh.
These sanctioning bodies, okay, they're non-profit.
Yeah.
Do you see that? They're non-profit organizations. Okay, that's what they are.
Yeah.
Which means they're full of shit. Look, that shit's just to evade taxes and shit. That's all that is. When Mauricio Suleiman says we had a meeting with the board of directors in Hawaii to vote on this franchise belt thing, right? Okay, who paid for all those plane flights to Hawaii? Who paid for the hotel? Who paid for the food you were eating and the place you were staying and the souvenirs you bought? All right, and all that good stuff. Mauricio, who paid for your time? Hawaii's not a cheap place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii's a very expensive place to go. And we're talking pro board of directors, along with yourself, all those plane tickets, all those hotels, who's paying for that? Well, that's where the money's going. All this window dressing they're doing, acting like they're an actual organization is bullshit. It's whatever Mauricio says.
Yeah.
Right? Mauricio decided we're going to do a franchise belt, which we all knew was bullshit. Right? He made that decision, but he wants to pretend like he's an organization like the NFL or the MLB or the Premier League or something, or the IOC, which is corrupt anyway, but he wants to pretend like he's an organization and he doesn't call the shots. We need a vote, and it's a very important vote. So we're going to go to Hawaii. You could have do this shit on Zoom. You could have just called each other up, and you have to go to Hawaii. Now, again, I keep using that as an example because that's where your money's going, Arrow. Hey, Canelo, that's where your money's going.
They could have done it in Oklahoma where they're having the Cambosos fight, right?
Yeah. You get an Australian dude, and you're going to have him fight in Oklahoma. Great job. Terrific. But, I mean, that has nothing to do with
Speaking of Mauricio Suleiman, I don't know if you heard this as well.
Oklahoma.
Suleiman responded to Dimitri Bivol, and he said, "Our position is not personal, and we're very sorry if it hurts anyone. We're a sanctioning body that fights for peace and against abuse of power. It's very unfortunate he is a victim in this situation." Now, what he's speaking of is their ban on Russian fighters and Russian fighters being
the abuse. That's so ironic because the abuse of power is him.
Yeah.
You're the one abusing your power.
It's not personal, but it is. It's ridiculous, and
it's not personal. We're just gonna fuck with your career. We're gonna fuck with your money, and we're gonna fuck with it because guess what? A boxer's career, their money. Then you're fucking with their family. You're fucking with their personal life. So it is personal.
But the takeaway, the pull quote here is very unfortunate. He is a victim in this situation. Why is he a victim in this situation? He's a victim in this situation, I would argue, because of you. But at the very best, let's say Suleiman is genuine in his thoughts here. And we both completely disagree with that, by the way. We don't have to get into that. We both completely disagree with the WBC's stance on this, and Bob Arum's by extension.
Yeah.
But you have an opportunity here to make sure this guy is not a victim of this. Not a victim of it. And you can simply doing that. You're saying he's a nice guy. He's got nothing to do with the situation, but no, there is no but. Make sure he's not a victim of the situation and allow him to fight for your belt. And I think Bob Arum is completely taking advantage of this situation. And Nando has spoken about this. The fact that this isn't a big fight and they can't make this happen is absurd. Put the fight in Montreal. It sells there. It sells out there. They can make this fight happen for whatever reason. Bob
But
Arum
is
does
it
not want
any
to fight
smaller than the
and
other
is
fights he's
using
done?
this as an excuse.
Yeah, but my problem with they say things like this is it's like, bro, look at the dudes you've been fighting. Those aren't big names.
Mm-hmm.
They're not big fights. Like so what? So what? Like the part he doesn't want to say is because it's not big enough to take that risk, is what he's meaning to say, right? Right. Um, Look, shout out to Michael Mindiola. We appreciate all you guys that leave comments. So we do read all the comments, guys. But I just want to respond really quick to something he said. I just disagree. I don't think Tim's gonna sweat Ocampo at all. I know you're saying he's a dangerous opponent. I guess every fighter at that level has a certain level of danger, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not denying that, but
He's a 9
I,
to 1
I
favorite.
just think Tim's just going to punish him. He's going to punish him to the body. I think he's going to take him out mid rounds. To be honest,
And this is a get like we talked about yesterday. Even if Tim has some resistance and doesn't look great, this is one of those fights you get by, because we talked about this with Teofimo. Teofimo didn't look good against Sandor, but he got by, and people read too much into that fight, obviously. But it just turns out you get by those fights and you get to the big fight. That's the main objective here. It would be better if you look great. Yes, you can build the fight better, but get by it. And I think he'll do that. I think he'll decisively get by this fight. And I think he stops Ocampo. I think that's going to happen. Speaking of Bivol, I just have some thoughts here. We talked about a fracture earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think people are reading the Canelo situation correctly. Once again, big shock, right? Because you have a lot of highly emotional people, I feel, on the anti-Canelo train, especially, who he's not going to do anything right. We already know that. We've been over that. But when it comes to, let's throw out the 4 fighters that are in the mix. Charlo, Benavidez over here, Bivol, Badu Jack over here. I think it's either completely ignorant or disingenuous what people have been doing the past year and a half when it comes to these things. And it's mostly domestic level boxing fans who don't follow cruiserweight. They don't follow fighters outside of America. When I saw last year when Canelo signed to fight Bivol, and people were saying he's ducking Charlo at the expense of Bivol, that was just absurd to me. It was just one of those things where it just triggered me. And I'm like, it's either two things. They're ignorant or they're disingenuous. And I think it's
disingenuous, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, but to carry on my comment, it's disingenuous because now we're starting to hear rumors of Charlo possibly being the guy. And once again, that goalpost starts to move. It's over here. They're saying Charlo deserves to be the belt holder still. Charlo deserves to be number 1 at 160, even with the inactivity. He's going through problems, right? But when it comes to Canelo, no. You know, he's inactive. He's too inactive. Which one is it? Which one is it? It's the constant goalpost moving that's disingenuous. But what we have setting up clearly is you have the entertaining fights here. Benavidez, Charlo. You have the more challenging fights, in my opinion. Of course, it's subjective till it happens. Bivol and Badu Jack over here. And what I value about Canelo, once again, is he'll take the challenges. Even if it's a smaller name. We talked earlier about fighters being attracted to low risk, high reward, right? What the anti-Canelo people are going to miss once again here is if he does pick a Badu Jack, they're going to say, how are these people still staying attached to Canelo even though he's not giving us the Benavidez versus Charlo fight? It's because he's still staying true to himself by taking the more challenging fight. And I would argue that Badu Jack, we already know Bivol is the most challenging fight. But in order, I would put it Bivol, Badu Jack, Benavidez, and Charlo in that order, from the most challenging to the least challenging. And I think another thing they miss is they've completely messed up this whole Benavidez thing. They've completely botched it from the beginning. I would argue purposely, but they're still botching it nonetheless. Is they're trying to project that Canelo fans are scared to death of Benavidez, and it's just never been there. Benavidez is a guy there's not a person alive ducking Benavidez. Not only Canelo, nobody. Everybody seems to want that fight. And we like Benavidez. He's entertaining. He's a good fighter. But when Canelo, I think, views Benavidez, and of course, I'm just projecting this out. This is just a guess, but I think it's an educated guess. I think when he views Benavidez, he views a guy that I'll get around to that. Not really. I don't think he views Benavidez as this great fighter, as this titan, as this peer that's on his level. I don't. I think he sees him like as a little brother or something like that. And I'm going to go for the legacy, and I'll circle back to Benavidez. I think that's how he's viewing this. And here's the question I would ask. I'll pose it to the chat. I'll pose it to you. 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, because we know Canelo values what? Legacy. And because he values legacy, he values belts, hardware. He uses that to climb the ladder amongst his all-time great Mexican peers, right? And even more so that he's in higher weight classes, because a lot of the Mexican champions have been in lower weight classes than Canelo's in right now. Right now, I think there's only 16 four-division champions in boxing history. As Gonzalo pointed out last night on our show, if he wins at cruiserweight, he gets rarefied air. He becomes one of a handful of fighters to be a 5-division champion. So my question would be, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, which fight will be viewed better historically or more career defining, more legacy defining? Would it be him beating Badou Jack at cruiserweight, winning a title in his 5th weight class, or beating the number 2 guy in his division who is beltless currently? But there's a possibility Benavidez can go on to be a great fighter. So over time, it could be viewed as a great win, but possibly not. Possibly David Benavidez goes on to be a good fighter, just a good fighter in this era. And him beating Benavidez, who is number 2 in his division with no belts, I would argue, is not going to be seen. It's not going to age as well as Canelo possibly winning a cruiserweight title against a guy in Badou Jack who's already a 3-division champion. What do you think?
I have to be honest, the Benavidez fight will be viewed better in history than this fight.
You think so?
Yes.
Then a 5-division champion.
Yes. And
And
the
why
reason
so?
so one, if Leonard gets shit for his win or Donnie DeLon, and everyone knows that, it's like they know he wasn't they just know he was not a light heavyweight champion, right? Like they know he's not. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, Leonard doesn't even it doesn't even enhance Leonard's legacy whether or not he was a light heavyweight champion. It does nothing for him. He's still Ray Leonard. He's still one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. And that doesn't enhance anything. Even if it did go up and fought Donnie DeLon, it wouldn't even have been that big of a deal compared to everything else he accomplished, right? Because yes, Canelo values hardware and all that, but all that, what we need to understand is this. He is the undisputed champion of a weight class. So it's kind of unfair to say a guy needs to have hardware to fight him in his division when he has all the belts in his division.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we also value title defenses. We value fighting the rivals of your era. We value being in great fights. We value giving the fans what they want in the moments that they want them, right? Mm-hmm. So, and because of that, yes, I think it would supersede for sure. This would be like his version of, now I'm not comparing the fighters, but it would be like his, like to Leonard, what Hagler was, not Hagler, Hearns was, right? When they fought at welterweight. Mm-hmm. That's what this would be. This is a rivalry. This is something that has organically happened, right? And it's a fight all of us are saying. And what we have now that we didn't have before, We have receipts now. We have people overwhelmingly saying this is the number one fight we want. Right now, that doesn't mean that a Badu Jack win wouldn't be historic or big for him. But if I'm weighing both of them, I have to say Benavidez. But because the Badu Jack, like the cruiserweight thing, to me, all bullshit aside, that's trying to get that one last division should be something you do like later on, like at the end of your career. Like it's not, you don't destroy your body, perhaps take punishment to your body at a higher weight class, right? Win, lose, or draw right now, right? When you're at the tail end of your prime.
Yeah, Roy going to heavyweight and then try to come back down to light heavyweight.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I just think there's an aura and a feeling in the air that there's some unfinished business at 168 pounds.
Yeah.
It's there, right? And I'll use this example, like a win over Marquez was just a bigger deal for Pacquiao than a win over Margarito. Oh, but Margarito, that was another belt, another division. I didn't need Pacquiao to beat Margarito at a catchweight in another weight class for me to know Pacquiao was an amazing, great, all-time great. I didn't need that.
Yeah, but accomplishments and accolades matter, though.
Yeah, of course they do, but then there's asterisk, Calix, because then what do people say about Pacquiao's win over Margarito? Was he really a champion at 154?
I don't think there's asterisks, though. That's the thing, and that's when I say I don't like catchweights, this is the pushback I get is 10, 20 years from now, people don't care. They care
about Leonard. They still bring up the Leonard thing.
They bring it up, but it's still an accomplishment. It's still happening.
It's what I'm saying. It's an irrelevant accomplishment to people. Like people don't care about that fight really when it comes to Leonard. If I were to ask you, Calix, name me Leonard's 3 greatest fights, you're not going to say that fight.
You're right.
You're going to say the Hearns fight, the rematch with Duran, and you're going to say the Hagler fight.
Yeah, but the Margarito win for Pacquiao is up there, though.
Is it?
In that weight class.
What I'm asking is, was it necessary? Would Pacquiao been any less of a legendary fighter if he never did that catchweight fight with Margarito?
Yeah, a little bit less.
In what way?
Because he'd be a 10 division champion as opposed to an 11 division champion. I mean, not 11 division champion, but 11 weight classes. 11 weight classes as opposed to 10. It matters.
No, that's how many he fought in. I don't think that's how many. Isn't he like?
No, it's how many he fought in. 11 versus 10. That's how many he fought in. 11.
Yeah, but he didn't really fight in that many weight classes.
He did.
Not really, though, is what I'm saying. Just like Leonard didn't really fight at light heavyweight.
And then we get back to the catchweight thing, right? Is you got to fight at the actual limit.
Like,
right?
Do you want, like, what I'm saying is this. Of course, like it's just an accolade, something else to put in your resume or whatever. It's just not, to me, it's not what I want right now for Canelo. That's not what I want.
It comes off more as a novelty fight, right?
Yeah, it comes off as, I'm just doing this to enhance my legacy. But it's kind of like, okay, well, I mean, that's nice and all, but that's not the fight we want. Like at the same time,
we want them to value the Benavidez fight over a Badu Jack type fight.
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
It's just an interesting scenario, though, in that I think it's a tougher fight. And cruiserweight seems to be screaming. Like when they first mentioned Makabu, I forgot I think that was at the WBC headquarters. They did this at the meeting. And we were both confused. It's like cruiserweight. Remember when they talk about fighting Usyk at 199 or whatever they were talking about, 201?
Yeah.
It just seems like there are weight classes for a reason. And he's 1-1 at light heavyweight, 1-1 at 175. And the win he got at against Kovalev, he had to work for. He had to work for that one. And he lost to Bivol. I just think cruiserweight's too much. It's too much. And that's the part that is intriguing to me, though, into where I say it's not just a novelty fight. Is
Yeah, but where does it stop, Calix? Like if it's like, not to disagree, but I remember that when Tank moved up to fight Mario Barrios,
and they
and
started
Mario
calling him
Barrios was not a
cheap.
real champion, but
Yeah,
all I heard was, "Why you're quitting? He's gonna fight a bigger man."
yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, it's just not what we want right now. It's not. It's an irrelevant fight.
He has business at 135.
There's still unfinished business, is what I'm saying. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
There's business at 168 to take care of.
Yeah,
Benavidez, but you're still thinking Bivol, right?
I think it's going to be the beautiful fight. Yes,
Based off of retribution.
based off of that, based off what he said, but based off, I think a lot of these are just fillers, bro. I don't think Canelo's going to go to Saudi Arabia. I don't. He doesn't need to. Guys go to Saudi Arabia because they pay them premium money, right? And they overpay them to go over there. That's why they go. Canelo doesn't need that. Canelo generates genuine money, bro. Like, he generates it here. He doesn't need to go over there. I'm just saying.
Unless they offer him twice as much money.
But how much are they really going to pay him to go over there?
Dude,
How much do you think they're going to offer him?
They offer Messi one.
Are they really going to offer him $80 million to go to Saudi Arabia?
I'm telling you, it's possible. I think it's possible.
I don't know, man. I just don't think they're going to offer him that much money. The Saudis may have premium money, but they're not stupid either. Like, you know what I mean?
I think if they're offering Usyk 40 to 50 million a year, what do you think? What do you think the market over there is for Canelo? That's all I'm saying.
I'm not convinced.
It would not shock me at all.
I'm not convinced that Canelo is
90 million at him.
I'm not convinced that Canelo is a bigger name in Europe than a lot of these heavyweights. I'm not. Like Canelo's big in Mexico, he's big in the US, and he's well known around the world, but it's, you know, like, he's not bigger than Tim Tszyu in Australia, he's not bigger than Fury in the UK, he's not bigger than Inoue in Japan, he's not bigger, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's well known around these parts, but Usyk's gonna fight in Poland. You think Canelo is more well known in Poland than Usyk?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he is. Is Saudi Arabia? Is Canelo more popular than Badr Jack in Saudi Arabia?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
So are they really just because he's a big name here? Does it really mean they're going to throw 80 million? Look, I'll be the first one to say, if they offer Canelo $80 million, I say go get your bag. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say no. Like go get it then. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just doubt they're going to offer that much money. I just doubt it.
Yeah. So all things being even, out of those four guys, what's the four fights you would like to see from 1 to 4?
For Canelo's opponents?
Yes.
I would say Benavidez is my number one that I would like. Bivol would be 2. 3, I probably put Badr Jack. 4, man, I'd rather him fight fucking the Cuban cat than fucking Charlo, to be honest with you. I don't want to see a Charlo fight. That dude hasn't fought in almost 800 days, brother.
And I'm gonna squirm out of this one like I always do. I'm gonna be honest with you, D-Style. I like all these fights because I like Benavidez versus Morrell Jr. too. And I'll be the first one here to say, and we've been critical of, I've been critical. I just put myself in this. I've been critical of how Benavidez's team has been moving. But if Benavidez beats Plant and Morrell Jr. in the same year, that's a hell of a year. And Benavidez starts to even more so.
I was talking to a friend today. I'm not going to say the name, but I was talking to somebody today, another content creator. And he told me that he made a point to me, and I think it's a great point. How does the guy that talks like this, we marinated the fight for 5 years. For 5 years, so we could do the big fights with Plant and with Benavidez. We marinated. We marinated to defy. Like, you know what I mean? Like for 5 years. And look, it was a big fight. Like, it did like 100,000 buys at best. It did like 3 million at the gate. That's what you know what I mean. But 5 years we marinated. The smart promoter marinates these fights and makes their people wait so we can make the fights later. That's what we do with the fights. You know, you got people interviewing them. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like these fights with the Golovkin, they were giving tickets away because nobody wanted to see the fights. Everybody wanted to see the new sheriff in town, Benavides. You know, dudes interviewing him. Yeah. It's a great point. Yeah. Great point. You know, this great point. They were giving tickets away. Like, it did 18 million at the gate, brother. Like, what do you mean they were giving tickets away? But anyway, how does that dude, the marination guy, right? And we marinated the fight. How does that guy go from that to we sent Canelo the contract? We waited a week. He don't want the fight. We move on. Like, what? So, what happened to marinating the fight? So one fight, we waited 5 years, but Canelo, he has a deadline of like a week. After a week, we're giving up. We're done. We can't find Canelo. Can somebody please let Canelo know that the fight is in the table? I don't think Canelo knows. Please let him know. Like, I'm sure he knows. Here's the problem. And shout out to Ernesto Amador from No Puedes Jugar Boxeo. You don't play boxing. He has a podcast in Spanish. He said, from his understanding, he has a really good source on this, that the fight with Morrell and Benavides, and also according to Morrell, is already a done deal. They've already agreed to the fight without venue.
Mm-hmm.
He's already got the contract. It's already signed, sealed. Like they're set to fight. So
I saw Morrell Jr. say that after his fight too.
So how genuine are they about trying? Are they really offering Canelo a fight, or are they using Canelo's name for clout? And then you have his dad out there, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Canelo wants to fight, quite frankly. I mean, it's okay if he doesn't want to fight the monster. You know what I mean? Who would want to fight my son? I mean, he's the monster. Like Mike Tyson said, the Mexican monster. Like Mike Tyson said, the Mexican monster. Hey, have I said that Mike Tyson said it? Hey, guys, Mike Tyson said it. He said the Mexican monster. But I guess he's going to fight Berlanga or Conor McGregor. I guess that's who's going to fight. You know, and then you got content creator. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. Like, you're just dumb, bro. Like, you believe dumb shit. Really, you think he's going to fight Conor McGregor? That, like, honest to God, I hope he fights Conor McGregor. I would laugh. And then criticize him, but I would laugh.
And two things we would criticize here is Berlanga without anything behind it. Because Berlanga's a tune-up fight. And catch weights, no matter who does it, will criticize the catch weights. But the thing that makes the Benavides thing tough is there are clearly things to criticize. And Base the Kid says something on our roundtable after the Ryder fight. And he said, Battle Jack fights next. And I was like, no. He's like, the Battle Jack fight's going to happen next. It's not going to be Benavides for the Benavides reasons. And then it's not going to be Bivol. It's just not going to be that fight. And he may be right. But what he also said was, I said, it's so out of character for Benavides after fighting Plant to fight Morrell Jr. He looks like a legitimate threat. This guy looks like a wild card. 9 fights in, I understand it's very raw. We're just going off the eye test, but he's already ranked number 4. He looks the part. Eye test can be deceiving. Why fight that fight now and possibly ruin something down the line? And he said it's the same thing as Floyd versus Canelo. He wants to get to him early. He's going to be at 168 for a while. Why? Because the 2 Russians are at 175 now, and they don't want to fight those fights. I don't blame them. Only Canelo fights those fights. But 168, he's going to be there a while, and Morrell Jr. is going to gain steam as he goes. Get to that fight early, and in the process, Sun Tzu Art of War stuff right here. In the process, let Canelo get a little older. Let Canelo get a couple fights older before you fight him. Get to the young guy early, get to the older guy late. That could be possibly what we have going on for Benavides here. But at the same time, Plant and Morrell Jr. is a hell of a year. That's 2 great wins if you can pull it off. 2 great wins. What we have is the number 2 guy then beating 3 and 4.
Yeah, look, what I hope anyway is that something gets announced soon because I'm getting tired of this waiting game. That's number one. I'm tired of waiting. I just want to know who's going to fight already. Because who's going to fight, he's going to fight. You know what I mean? That's funny. But one of the improvements anyway Canelo could do, that he could make, and maybe he just doesn't want to bother with it, right? Is like the PR, the PR. But look, I'm a firm believer that your actions speak for themselves. Look at the resume. That speaks for itself. However, like, there's not really a Canelo representative that's very vocal out there like the way Samson is. Like the way a lot of these other fighters, how they have the very vocal representative. And you could argue that maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you don't want someone out there just spitting out shit and then they're not even saying the right stuff. But I do kind of want the ultimatum put out there by Canelo already. Like, it's time for him to just kind of make an offer, make it out in the open to Benavidez. I would like to see that personally, because something tells me I have a really good gut feeling that Samson's been, like, I honestly believe he's been capping since day one, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had this feeling like this dude ain't being truthful here about everything.
So you're saying publicly call him out on his bluff?
I would say call him out. Like, what I would do if I was Canelo, and I get a lot of people aren't going to like me here saying this. They get triggered when I say this for some reason. But if I was Canelo, if I was advising Canelo, I would say, you know what? They're not going to do it. So just go out there and just tell them, just tweet out, and add him, at Benavidez, whatever his Twitter handle is. I think it's at 300 something. Hey, yo, let's do it. And then tag the zone, tag Matchroom, let's go. Right? Come over here and let's do this. Right? We're waiting for you. We're going to send you an offer. Come over to the zone. Let's make this fight happen. I guarantee you the energy would change immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. Samson will come out. I mean, the place to do the fight's not the zone. The place to do the fight's Showtime. Showtime's the place to do the fight. We with Showtime. We offer him a lot of money, more than he's ever made in his life. Come for Showtime. Like shut up. Like, imagine if Canelo just said, no, are you going to come over here and fight or what? They got nothing. Everyone knows they wouldn't go over there. Everybody knows this. They know they wouldn't.
Can you do a conversation between Samson and Canelo real quick? Can you
look,
pull
Canelo? This is the thing, Canelo. We're gonna offer you more money. Look, shut the fuck up, motherfucker. You're not gonna offer me nothing, okay? Well, Canelo, this is not responsible to talk in that way. This is how I talk English, motherfucker. Okay, like, look. I need to make sure you understand, Canelo. David is the guy. He's a new sheriff in town. I don't know what town that is, motherfucker, because I still have the badge, motherfucker. Okay, get the fuck out of here, man. And that's what he would say. And then Mauricio will walk in. This is the thing. It would be a big fight for Mexican boxing if we were to do that fight. I will make a special belt, a special Mayan, Aztec, Inca belt, all in one, with the little bits of the Spanish roots copulated into the pearls of the belt. We will do it together. And then, shut the fuck up, motherfucker. I'm going to fight for no fucking belt, motherfucker. I got to go to Saudi Arabia. Arabian night. It's going to be Arabian day. I will fight for the cruiserweight belt at a catch weight. It's going to be an Arabian night. That's what Canelo's going to do, brother.
Payday. And look, the beautiful thing about this to me is I
couldn't hold the conversation together, by the way. That conversation made no sense, but it's okay.
And look, it's only been what 6-7 weeks since the fight, so that's a beautiful thing about Canelo world and living in it is things move fast compared to other fighters. You don't have to wait a year to see him come back. But the beautiful thing to me and how this is lining up is I love all these fights. I do. Just as a consumer, yeah, I mean, and Zone 6 is right. Let's just call out the fight we want and hold their feet to the fire. So if Canelo versus Benavidez is what you want, call for it. And then blame who you want. I'm not going to try to talk you off the fence on that. Blame who you want. If it doesn't come through, which it looks like it isn't. But all these consolation prizes to me look great. I love the consolation prize of Canelo versus Badu Jack because I'm intrigued by that fight. I actually think he loses that fight. I'm intrigued by a Bivol rematch. I actually think he loses that fight. I'm intrigued by a Charlo fight because I think he would beat the hell out of Charlo and that would be entertaining. And I'm also intrigued by Benavidez versus Morrell Jr. because I think he could lose that fight. And that's the
like
danger
Canelo
you start
versus
skating here. That's the danger you start skating here. That ice is thin. Because we all remember Juan Ma versus Gamboa. What happened? They were marinating that fight. And what happened? Juan Ma got knocked the hell out. And the fight goes kaput. And we're running the risk of that here. It's the risk you run of not giving the fans the fight they want. Then it could go away.
Like there's no marination needed for this fight.
There's no marination needed, but I would also argue that that fight could still be big coming off of losses. The market has dictated that they're forgiving for a Canelo loss as long as he's fighting a challenging fight. I think the market understands that the Bivol fight was a challenging fight. He lost it. The demand is still there. But one could argue that you could do that one too many times. And if you lose to Bivol, if you lose to Badu Jack, maybe the Benavidez fight isn't as big anymore. If Benavidez loses to Morrell Jr., which is a possibility, the fight, maybe Morrell Jr. becomes the guy who's in the driver's seat now, right? And I would argue stylistically that's a tougher fight for Canelo. I would argue that. I think there are several fights out there that are stylistically tougher for Canelo than the Benavidez fight. But the beautiful thing here is for me, and by the way, it's interesting. You talked about the belts that they make up out of thin air, you know, those honorary belts. Charlo, that's one of the things about the 2 years of inactivity. He won the Juneteenth belt back in 2021, and 2 years now, he's not going to defend that Juneteenth belt. 2 years now.
Well, I think those are like trophies. You can't really defend them, really. But
not that they're worried about defending belts anymore anyway, but
all I know, bro, all I know is this. I don't want to overthink it. I don't. Like the fight we want, I want to see is Benavidez fight.
Yeah, just make the fight.
Like, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. We're going to see where it goes. But again, it goes back to look at what Lennox was best is saying. It goes back to the PR.
Mm-hmm.
If you make it clear to people, this dude already has a fight with Morrell, so we would like them to publicly at least say that they're not going to do that fight then. And they're going to have real negotiations with us, right? Because I don't believe Sampson. I don't believe the guy. Sorry. Yeah. I know guys who have access to him probably believe him, I guess, but I don't believe him. I just got to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I don't believe the guy. I think he says things that are contrary to each other. He says one thing in Spanish interviews, another thing in English interviews. Morrell saying another thing over here. Like it's not making any sense. Like he calls things fake news that are not fake news. So I have to question the guy. Like I'm just saying. I think the plan was always to fight Morrell. I think that was always the plan. And they're throwing shit to the wind, hoping to make the Canelo fight maybe, but I don't think it's been genuine.
Mm-hmm. Trust the track record.
Yeah.
Right? Trust the track record. One side has a track record delivering so far, one does not. And, just lastly, one thing I would disagree with you on is I don't think it's so cut and dry that a Benavidez win would age better than a Badu Jack win.
Yeah, but you could say that about it. Look, nothing is cut and dry immediately after the fact. But there's wins that could age poorly, depending on how a fighter goes, I guess, right? But I can't make a decision what fight I want to watch based on what might or might not happen in the future. I mean,
Yeah.
I know what I
Well,
want
you
right now.
can. You can. But yeah, I understand. The demand is for Benavidez. Demand the fight you want to see, hold their feet to the fire, and criticize accordingly after the fight. So, on that note, man, it's been a great show. Appreciate everybody for swinging through. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning to Hcpx. A lot to look forward to this weekend, mainly like showcase fights, but we're coming off a great performance by Teofimo Lopez. So let's see how Progress looks, and let's see how a possibility of a Progress Teofimo fight. That's the one I want to see.
Yeah.
That's the fight to make 135, 140.
Roundtables where tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. Oh yes, tomorrow. Roundtable, my channel.
Roundtable,
So
D-Style
everybody,
Boxing.
make sure you watch.
Lock in tomorrow. We'll send you out the link. We out. God bless. Peace.
Peace.